In this video, I want to talk specifically to the day traders, and I want to kind of point out a couple of little things that you might not have thought about. Now, this is the day trading on the stock market, and of course, we can day trade on the stock market if we've got an account over $25,000. If we don't have an account over $25,000, then we generally will day trade over in the futures market. And once you start trading in the futures market, you may never go back to the stock market. The futures market is a very beautiful place to be doing day trading. And so I want to talk about the two different types of trading that you might do, and day trading in particular, in the stock market versus the futures market. In the stock market, it takes a lot of money to make a small profit. All right, because there's no leverage in the stock market. Now you can get some leverage. You can get 2 to 1, 3 to 1. Some of you might even qualify for 4 to 6 to 1 leverage in the stock market. But for the most part, most of us get about 2 to 1 leverage in the stock market at best, and usually it's a cash account. So there is no leverage. So I always say it takes a lot of money to make a small profit in the stock market, whereas it takes a small amount of money to make a large profit in the futures market because you have leverage, up to 60% leverage in the futures market because everything is done on a margin account and everything is leveraged. Okay. So when you're day trading and you're day trading in the stock market, you have to have $25,000 to open account and to day trade. If you don't have $25,000, you can't basically you can't day trade. You have to, adhere to the pattern day trading rules. And so that doesn't happen over in the futures market. In the futures market, there are no pattern day trading rules. There's no penalties for going short. There's no interest. There's no, borrowing shares. There's no easy to borrow, hard to borrow. Everything is easy to go short. Everything is easy to go long. Everything is open for both directions, and there are no interest and penalties for doing so. And you can open an account as little as $2,000 to $5,000 to $10,000 over here in the futures market. That's why this is one of the most wonderful markets for day trading. And I wanted to just kind of focus in a little bit and take some of the context of what we do in the futures market over to the stock market and kind of give you an idea of how to do a little bit better day trading in the stock market based on some of the techniques that we use in the futures market. Now, in the futures market, if you go to the drop down list over here, you'll notice that there's not very many. I mean, that seems like a nice list, but it's not very many in comparison to the stock market, right? This is all we have to trade in the futures market. So for those of you who are not familiar with the futures market, it's not it's actually a very big market as far as volume goes. In fact, it's a larger volume than the stock market itself, the New York Stock Exchange. The futures market has larger volume quantity than the stock market, but it has fewer choices of things to trade. Now, there's plenty of opportunities in here. We got everything from the currencies to the softs like cocoa and coffee and orange juice. We can trade natural gas and unleaded gasoline. We can trade crude oil. We can trade gold and silver. We can trade the indexes like the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, the Russell. There's all kinds of fun stuff in here. You can see there's crude oil, there's platinum and palladium, there's soybeans, corn, sugar, there's Swiss franc down here, some more currencies, US dollar, the T notes, the T bills, the bonds, and there's some wheat down there in the bottom. So there's all kinds of fun things in here that you can trade. Like there's cotton, you can even trade cotton and feeder cattle, live cattle. There's a lot of stuff in here that you can trade, but it's not as varied and is not as broad a market as the stock market. Lots of things to trade in the stock market, whereas over here in the futures market, we're kind of limited. But that brings up the point that I want to make for day trading. When we day trade, we generally kind of, in the futures market in particular, we kind of have our little list of markets that we like to trade. And you'll see here for mine, currently I've just got mine's kind of set up. I'm looking at live cattle, corn, the Dow, the NASDAQ, the Russell, and the S&P. And that's kind of my core go-to markets when I'm day trading. Those are the ones that I kind of watch, and that's it. That makes it real simple, right? You're not going through big scanners. You're not trying to, look for bubble things like we have over here in FinViz and the stock market, trying to decide which ones are moving, which ones aren't. And it's a kind of a different strategy that we trade over here in the futures market. And when you're day trading, I want to kind of emphasize the point that a lot of day traders think that you have to be active every minute. Oh, I'm a day trader, so I got to trade 25 times in an hour, or I got to trade 30, 40, 50 times in an hour, 60 times an hour, taking a trade every minute. And if I'm not actively trading, I'm not a day trader. That's not how you day trade. A day trader has patience. Sometimes you'll sit in front of the chart and you'll be staring at it for hours on end and never take a trade. Why? Not because the market doesn't move through a pattern or go in a big trend and you missed it. It's because you didn't get your perfect setup. Okay? You didn't get the setup that you're looking for that gives you the opportunity to take a position with the risk that you're willing to take. So you might see all kinds of stuff going on in the market that's moving, but it's not a setup that you're happy with. It's not something you're willing to take a risk on. So instead, you'll sit aside and just watch the market move through price and time. Sometimes it's very, very laborious and time, consuming to sit there and do nothing. You feel like you're wasting your time, but in reality, you are trading. You're day trading. You don't have to be active in the market all the time, trading all the time and trying to find something to get in and out of, like you're gambling. We're not gambling. We're looking for the actual very best, perfect setup, the one that we love, the one that we know, the one that we trust, and those are the only ones we take. And we'll sit there and wait for hours for one of those to come along. And when it does, we hit it hard and we take it. And if it doesn't immediately work out for us, it's either a breakout or bailout strategy. And if it doesn't work for us, we immediately get out. And then we sit there and wait for another 2 hours or maybe 3 days before we finally decide that it's the right setup for us to get in and do it again. Because we're leveraged at a 60-to-1 ratio, it doesn't take much money for the market to move very far. So in this case, this is corn, and this is a day trade. Well, it went over a period of time, but you held it overnight. But you only had to have $1,000 into that account, roughly $1,000 to make $1,000. You double your account in. This is a range bar 12, and that's about probably a couple of day 12. It's overnight. It is a couple of day move, but nonetheless, that's $1,000 in a couple of days on $1,000 investment. So that's a pretty good move. And being able to capture and find those opportunities in the market takes time, and you have to wait. And it's like fishing. You wait and wait and wait, and then you find the perfect little fishing hole. You throw your line in, and you try and catch that big fish. Sometimes we catch little fish, sometimes we catch big fish, sometimes we lose our bait. But you know what? Little fish are good eating too. We like to catch little fish, but sometimes you catch that big fish and away it goes. So this is what it's like to day trade. And especially in the futures market, we're not jumping all over the place. Okay. The grass is not always greener on the other side. We just like to sit and watch our specific special markets. So I want to take that idea, that concept over to the stock market. Now, oftentimes you've heard me talk about this little tool right here in FinViz. FinViz is a website where you can go and you can get this little bubble tool that kind of bubbles up and it shows you which markets are trading hot today. And so oftentimes we'll look for the hot traders, the ones that are moving big, and those are the ones we like to jump on and trade and try and get in and make some money on, right? So that's kind of how we find stocks out of the 15,000 stocks that are out there in the stock market. We'll try and find the one or two or three that are percolating up to the top of this little screener. Sometimes I'll even watch down at the bottom. I'll see the ones that are really low because then we'll watch and get a bounce or a rebound. And sometimes those are good opportunities. So you can play both sides of this little bubble tool. But there's 15,000 stocks. So the point that I'm trying to make in the stock market, that maybe we can do the same thing. And here's a strategy and a technique that I like to do. I have my favorite stocks. I have about a list of about 10 stocks that I go through every day to see if they're moving, and those are the ones I trade for day trading. And I don't like to trade big stocks. I don't like to day trade $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, per share stocks. I like to trade small stocks, somewhere between $10 and $50. And so this is Twitter, and Twitter is one of my favorite stocks. I like to day trade Twitter. Now, Twitter is currently trading at $53 a share, and this is a 1-minute chart. This is a 5-minute chart. This is a 15-minute chart, and this is the daily chart. So I'll analyze the different time frames for the same stock, And then I'll just use my tools from the bulls and bears and the count, measure, setup, trigger, follow through, the decision point trading. And I'll sit there and I'll watch and I'll wait and I'll look for opportunities to take advantage of Twitter. And I just kind of keep my eye on Twitter every day because Twitter has lately had a tendency to trend and it makes nice moves in the market. So as you can see, just this nice move right here with 100 shares, that's 45 bucks. All right, that's a nice trade. If you did 1,000 shares, depending on how much money you've got in your account, you could make $450. Here's another nice move in Twitter. There's another $30 move in Twitter. There's another, $60 move in Twitter. And so this is just on a 1-minute chart today with Twitter. So if you can sit and wait and make yourself look for opportunities in the market, and just kind of watch the same stock over and over, day after day after day, you don't always have to be jumping over and looking for the hot stock that's running as hard as it can today, because there's a lot of stocks that just kind of are active stocks that move on a regular basis, have nice trends, give you good setups, and you can take some positions and just watch those same 10 stocks all the time. That's all you have to watch. I know a guy, the only thing he trades is Boeing. That's it. That's his whole trading strategy. He just trades Boeing. And he'll trade it till he makes $350 in a day, and then he's done. And if he loses $350 in a day, he's done. And hopefully his goal is to make more money than he loses by having more winning days than losing days. And he'll sit there and wait for the perfect setup. When he gets it, he trades it. His goal is to make $350. And so just trading one stock is a grand strategy, and I wanted to bring that to your attention and kind of bring that to you because it's something that we do when we trade in the futures market. We don't bounce all over the place. We don't look at a million different stocks. We don't have scanners. We don't have alert systems. We don't have all that stuff, all those trappings that come along with the stock market when we're over here in the futures market, because really we don't need it because there's such a few numbers of commodities that are available to trade. We can simply look at them in 30 seconds. You can kind of flip down through everything you're going to trade and you can see where they're at, and you can be trading in the futures market. So I wanted to bring that difference to you. And if you would like to learn a little bit more about either one of these markets or some of these concepts, get a hold of me, lhturner@tradementors.com. I'd love to talk to you and get you up and running and help you with either one of these two markets and these strategies.